absolutely essential that people see each other face to face, because the power of networks and the social contact that we have as fellow enforcers is just enormous. That extra perspective that you get from a conversation, whether inside a conference suite or over coffee or lunch, will help you. It will help you in your work. It will help you take forward new aspects of your investigations. And we need to connect. We are social animals, and this conference is such a vital part of those connections that we make.
We need to be getting to people, trading standards, we at Shelter, everybody involved needs to be getting to people where they are in the language and in an accessible way for them. So that does mean translating materials, that does mean making sure that online and offline resources are available to make sure people can get to those, understand what their rights are and really tackle the issues and help us all work together to tackle the issues that we see.
A lot of the failures we see in consumer markets have really behavioural roots. So when we think about things like why consumers don't engage with terms and conditions and online privacy notices, you can trace that back to information overload, choice overload, inattention, and these are all behavioural biases and driven by how people are making decisions, which is interesting not only to understand the root of the problem, but it also gives us some clues as to how we might solve these problems.
And we're really keen to work with anybody who's trying to improve standards for vulnerable consumers, and that includes lots of people who are hit by the housing emergency today, so renters, people who are homeless, and homeowners who are struck by issues in buying homes as well.
We are looking for having a much more open and constructive conversation, even more than we have at the moment, with trading standards colleagues. We've got our call for evidence that we've just finished on the product safety reviews, thinking about the product safety framework. We're very keen to have conversations through CTSI or indeed bilaterally with local authorities.
The reality is that there's no one regulator that can ever stay across the entire digital landscape or the web. And there's a lot of new regulators in town, including a future digital markets unit within the CMA, Ofcom taking on a new role for online safety, and existing enforcers like the Information Commissioner's Office, the Financial Conduct Authority, and the CMA's existing enforcement powers in relation to consumer protection and competition. So there's a huge need to draw them all together to think about how they enforce. Are they trying to tackle similar problems using different toolkits? Think about design frameworks and the like. And we really hope that that's going to be an effective mechanism to help us tackle more online harm and detriment. We already do a lot of enforcement work in that space, and that's going to continue. But this is really trying to make sure that there are no gaps, or as few gaps as possible, between the different enforcement regimes.
Data is critical because it allows us to build a very real picture of the experiences of consumers from the ground up. But it must be collected responsibly and interrogated and analysed in a responsible way.
If you're from a particular racial groups, or if you're disabled, or if you're from certain other groups, you are much more likely to be hit by the housing emergency, whether that's ending up homeless, not having a secure home, or not being able to find another home if you do lose your home. Just to give you one example, we're campaigning against this practice where landlords, and lots of landlords, about 2/3 of landlords, don't let to people on benefits. And that, of course, because you're more likely to be on benefits if you're disabled, or actually if you're a woman, or if you're from certain racial groups as well, that, of course, is indirect discrimination. And legal cases have proven that discrimination is unlawful. So we need to stamp out this behaviour, and we need to work with anybody who wants to try and tackle these issues across the housing market.
Well, consumer vulnerability in Northern Ireland takes many forms, not least when it comes to financial affordability, when it comes to our high rate of economic inactivity, our high levels of disability benefit claimants, our significantly lower levels of digital literacy, high levels of digital exclusion, and all of that drives the need for regional parity when it comes to solutions for consumer protection. And that is critical, and that is why parachuting a GB-centric solution to a region of the UK will never work. And the same thing will apply in England, if you like, at a sub-regional level. Something that works in the Greater South East will not work in the North East of the country. So we need to be very tuned in to consumer detriment at a sub-regional level if we're going to help and support all of our citizens. And whatever the solution is, it has to improve transparency, it has to build confidence, it has to build resilience, it has to increase consumer understanding and give them more control over the choices that they make and the data that they hand over and use. And it has to build confidence in markets through very robust redress mechanisms.
At Shelter, we've seen a huge increase in demand for our services and lots of people coming to us with worries about what's going to happen to them, but also lots and lots of people losing their jobs, going into debt. Renters in particular haven't had the ability to take mortgage holidays in the way that homeowners have, so lots of people have gone into rent arrears and are really worried about their future. We're already seeing some people being evicted, and we're really worried that the number of people, hundreds of thousands of people who've gone into arrears during the crisis, we could end up seeing an increase in homelessness as a result of that, as courts get going and we see people starting to be evicted.
Look, it's been a pleasure to hear from people from different disciplines and with different focuses today. My challenge to the room at the end of my talk was, let's take a nuanced and sophisticated view of how consumers are actually making decisions. That is a challenge that applies across markets in many different contexts, and really the perspective that I'm trying to bring is what is a realistic model of human decision making and how can we design services, products, consumer markets that go with the grain of human behaviour rather than against it.
And to be in the same space with colleagues from different sectors, from different policy areas, and hear about their experiences and challenges has been truly wonderful, because this is what we have missed over the last 18 months. Collaboration, partnership working, conversations, dialogue. And you learn so much just by having a 5-minute conversation with someone else about their area of work, their perspective, their experiences, and being able to put forward the Northern Ireland position across. So it's been wonderful, and the speakers that I shared the platform today were amazing, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time, and I'm very grateful to John Harriman for inviting us to come along and speak at the symposium this year. Hopefully he'll invite me back.